Aram woke to a gentle tapping on his window. It was still dark outside. The first rays of dawn were just beginning to touch the sky. Aram sat up in bed and rubbed his eyes. He peered through the window. To his astonishment, he saw his cousin Murad sitting on a magnificent white horse. Murad grinned at Aram. His teeth flashed white against his tanned face. "Come on," he whispered. "We're going for a ride." Aram couldn't believe his eyes. He had always longed for a horse, but his family was poor. They could never afford such a luxury. "Where did you get that horse?" he whispered back. Murad just smiled mysteriously. "Don't worry about it," he said. "Just get dressed and come on." Aram's family, the Garoglanians, were known for their honesty. They were poor, but proud. They would never think of stealing. Aram wondered where Murad had gotten the horse. He knew his cousin was mischievous. Murad was inviting him on an adventure. He quickly dressed and crept out of the house. The sight of the white horse banished any sleepiness. Aram had never been this close to a horse before. He was both excited and afraid. He had always dreamed of riding, but now he felt a knot of anxiety. Murad chuckled. "Don't worry, he's gentle. He won't hurt you." Aram reached out a trembling hand. The horse's coat was smooth and warm. Aram climbed up behind Murad. The horse shifted beneath him. Aram gripped Murad's waist tightly. He felt a thrill of fear and exhilaration. They rode away from the village. The sun was rising now. It cast a golden glow over the fields. The air was fresh and cool. The scent of dew-covered grass filled Aram's nostrils. He smiled, feeling the morning breeze. Murad was a natural horseman. He rode with an easy grace that Aram envied. Aram, on the other hand, was clumsy and awkward. He clung to Murad's waist for dear life. He feared that he would fall off at any moment, but Murad just laughed. "Relax," he said. "You're riding with Murad, the great horseman." Murad reminded Aram of their Uncle Khosrov, a big booming man with a wild spirit. Uncle Khosrov was famous for his short temper and his love of horses. Murad, Aram thought, had inherited some of Uncle Khosrov's wild spirit. He certainly had the same love of horses. Section 5. A morning ride. They rode for what seemed like hours. They raced across fields and through orchards. The horse seemed to know where Murad wanted to go. The sun climbed higher. Aram began to relax. He felt the wind in his hair. He felt a sense of freedom. They stopped at a stream. Aram dismounted. The horse was truly magnificent. Murad laughed. "This is the life, eh, Aram?" For this brief moment, he felt truly free. As the sun began to set, they headed back, cherishing the memory of their ride. Section 6, a chance encounter. They were about to mount the horse when they heard a voice. A man was walking towards them. He was leading a mare. The man was John Biro, a farmer. Aram had met him before. He seemed kind but forgetful. John Biro stopped and stared at the horse. His eyes widened in disbelief. "Where did you get that horse?" Murad shrugged. "We found him," he said. John Biro didn't believe him. "That's my horse," he cried. "I've been looking for him all morning. He must have gotten out of his stall." Aram knew then that Murad had stolen the horse. He felt a wave of guilt. Section 7. The truth revealed. Murad looked at John Biro. He didn't say a word, but Aram could see the truth in his eyes. Murad had indeed stolen the horse. John Biro continued to stare at the horse. He walked closer. He ran his hand over the horse's flank. "But it's definitely my horse." Aram looked at Murad. He wanted his cousin to deny it, but Murad remained silent. John Biro looked from Murad to Aram. His eyes were filled with a mixture of sadness and anger. Section 8. A difficult decision. Murad finally spoke. His voice was low and contrite. "We are sorry, John Biro," he said. "We didn't mean to steal your horse. We just wanted to ride him." John Biro shook his head. "You could have asked me. I would have let you ride him." "We know," Murad said. Aram knew they had to return the horse. It was the only right thing to do. But he couldn't help but feel a pang of regret. He had enjoyed riding the horse. He had felt free and alive. He could see the same regret in his cousin's eyes. Section 9. Returning the horse. Without a word, Murad dismounted. He handed the reins to John Biro. "Here's your horse," he said. "We're sorry for taking him." John Biro took the reins. He looked at the boys for a long moment, then he sighed. "Thank you for bringing him back," he said. John Biro turned and led his horse away. The boys watched him go. Section 10. A changed horse. A few days later, John Biro came to Aram's house. Aram's father invited him in. They sat down at the kitchen table with tea. John Biro seemed troubled. He kept looking at Aram and Murad. Finally, he said, "Something strange has happened." Aram's father raised an eyebrow. "What is it, John Biro?" "It's my horse," John Biro said. "He's different. He's stronger. He's more well-behaved. It's like he's a completely different animal." Aram and Murad exchanged glances. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. John Biro continued, "I don't understand it. He's never been like this before. It's like someone trained him." Aram's father chuckled. "Maybe he just needed a change of scenery," he said. John Biro shook his head. "No, it's more than that," he insisted. "It's like he's a new horse." Section 11. The value of honesty. John Biro never knew the truth about what happened to his horse. He never knew that two young boys had stolen him and ridden him for a day, and he never knew that they had returned him, filled with remorse for their actions. But somehow the horse had changed. He had become stronger, more disciplined. It was as if the experience of being stolen and returned had taught him something. It had taught him the value of freedom, and it had taught him the importance of returning home. As for Aram and Murad, they learned a valuable lesson that summer. They learned that honesty is always the best policy, and they learned that even the most harmless of adventures can have unintended consequences. They never forgot their adventure with the stolen horse. It was a story they would carry with them for the rest of their lives.